On November 2nd, 1920, black residents of Ocoee, Florida, prepared to exercise their right to vote. For many, this was their first election since gaining the legal right. White supremacists, enraged by their participation, were waiting. That day, democracy turned into terror, leaving dozens dead and an entire black community erased from history. Moses Norman, a wealthy black landowner, encouraged Ocoee's black residents to vote. He arrived at the polling station that morning, only to be turned away. Officials falsely claimed he didn't pay his poll tax. Norman, determined, returned later with proof. He was denied again. That night, armed white men arrived at the home of his friend, July Perry, looking for him. July Perry was another prominent black leader in Ocoee. He had helped register black voters, angering local whites. That night, when the mob came looking for Moses Norman, they surrounded Perry's home instead. Perry, protecting his family, fired at the intruders. In the chaos, 2 white men were killed. The mob, now seeking revenge, grew into an army of hundreds. After Perry's resistance, the white mob unleashed violence on Ocoee's black community. They set homes on fire, forcing families to flee into the dark woods. Anyone caught was lynched or shot on sight. The mob ransacked homes, stole valuables, and torched black-owned businesses. By morning, nearly every black resident was either dead or had fled in fear. Perry was wounded in the attack and captured while trying to escape. The mob dragged him to Orlando, where he was lynched near the courthouse. His body was hung as a warning to other black voters. The remaining black residents of Ocoee were given an ultimatum: leave or die. By the next day, Ocoee was an all-white town, a status it kept for decades. The Ocoee Massacre was covered up for years. Survivors were too afraid to speak. White leaders rewrote history, calling it a race riot instead of an attack. No one was ever held accountable. The town remained hostile to black residents, ensuring that Ocoee's dark past stayed hidden from history books for generations. For nearly a century, Ocoee's story was erased. In 2020, Florida officially acknowledged the massacre, offering reparations to victims' descendants. However, many still don't know about the events of that day. It serves as a reminder that black Americans' fight for the right to vote has always been met with violence, and that history, if ignored, repeats itself.